Hi, I'm Helen. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. The lingering glances, the sudden weekend trips, the whispered phone calls. My husband Mark and my sister Diane had always been close, but I trusted them both completely. Helen, can I borrow your blue dress for the charity dinner? Diane asked, leaning against my kitchen counter one Saturday morning. Again, you borrowed it last month for that work thing, I replied, pouring coffee into her favorite mug, the one she'd left at my house so many times it had become hers. Diane twirled her hair, her telltale nervous habit. Yeah, but Mark mentioned how much he liked it. Mark noticed something I wore? I laughed, sliding the mug toward her. That would be a first. Oh, he notices more than you think, Diane mumbled, then quickly added. About you, I mean. Somehow I doubt that. Last week was our anniversary and he forgot completely, not even a card. Maybe he's just busy at work, Diane suggested, suddenly very interested in her coffee. He's always busy these days? I sighed, especially on weekends. Remember when we used to have those Sunday brunches with the whole family? People change, Diane said. Priorities shift. I guess so, I replied, studying her face. You seem to be seeing a lot of him lately, though. Do I? Her voice rose slightly. Just, family stuff. Rachel, my best friend since college, walked in without knocking, our usual arrangement. Morning, Helen. Oh, hi, Diane. Didn't know you'd be here. Just leaving, actually, Diane said, checking her phone. Mark's giving me a ride to that job interview. Rachel's eyebrows shot up after Diane left. Your husband is driving your sister to an interview on a Saturday? That's convenient. Why do you say it like that? I asked. Because I saw them yesterday at Riverside Cafe. It didn't look like a family lunch, Helen. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying they were holding hands across the table. And I'm saying he kissed her goodbye. And it wasn't brotherly. My coffee mug shattered on the floor. You're wrong. I wish I was. Call his phone right now. I bet he won't answer. Rachel, this is crazy. Mark wouldn't... Call him, she insisted, handing me my phone. 3 unanswered calls later, I was pacing. Maybe they're in a dead zone. Or maybe you're in denial, Rachel said gently. Helen, I've known you for 20 years. I wouldn't say this if I wasn't certain. But Diane, my own sister? Sometimes the people closest to us hurt us the worst, Rachel said, helping me clean up the broken mug. What are you going to do? Wait up for him. Get the truth. That night, Mark didn't come home until 11. The confrontation was brief. His denials weak, his excuses pathetic. Where were you today? I asked as soon as he walked in. Work emergency, he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. On a Saturday? With my sister? His face paled. Helen, don't Helen me. Rachel saw you. At Riverside? It's not what you think. Then what is it? Because it looks like you're sleeping with my sister. His silence was my answer. 2 days later, my doorbell rang at 6 a.m. Diane stood there, holding her 7-year-old son Ethan's hand and a small suitcase. He's sick, Helen. Really sick, she whispered, tears streaming. The doctors say it's his heart. Mark and I need to go to Houston for treatment options. What are you saying? I need you to take Ethan while we sort things out, just for a little while. Sort what out? That you're sleeping with my husband? This isn't about us right now, Diane said, pushing Ethan forward. It's about my son. Aunt Helen? Ethan looked up at me with confused eyes. Mom says I'm staying with you. I knelt down to his level. Hey, buddy, are you feeling okay? My chest hurts sometimes, he said quietly. Mom says the doctors need to fix me. I looked up at Diane, who was already backing away. How long, Diane? Please, Helen. Ethan needs stability. You're good with him. We'll send money. Diane, he's dying, Helen. Do this one thing for me, she pleaded. We'll be in touch soon. Mom? Ethan called, his voice small and frightened. Where are you going? Just for a little while, honey, Diane called back, already halfway to Mark's waiting car. Aunt Helen will take good care of you. That was the last I saw of them, until they knocked on my door 15 years later. Is that really them? Rachel whispered, peering through my kitchen blinds at the couple sitting awkwardly in my living room. I nodded, feeling 15 years of buried rage resurface. Mark's balder, Diane's had work done, but it's them. What did they say they want? Rachel asked, keeping her voice low. They said, and I quote, "We want to make amends and reconnect with Ethan," I replied, mimicking Diane's sugary tone. After 15 years of nothing but birthday cards and the occasional check? That's rich, Rachel snorted. Where is Ethan now? Basketball practice. He'll be home in an hour, I said, checking my watch. Rachel, they didn't even ask if he survived. They abandoned a dying child. You think they lied about his condition? I know they did. The pediatric cardiologist found nothing wrong with his heart. Nothing. But by then, they were long gone. Did they ever explain the diagnosis? What did they actually tell you? Some congenital condition that required specialized treatment, I said. I took him to 3 different specialists. All said the same thing. Perfectly healthy boy. And you're sure they're here about Ethan? Not trying to weasel back into your life? Oh, I'm sure there's an angle, I replied. Diane doesn't make a move without calculating what's in it for her. Rachel squeezed my arm. What are you going to do? First, I'm calling Daniel, I said, reaching for my phone. 20 minutes later, I was speaking with my attorney. Helen, if what you're saying is true, we're looking at potential charges of fraud, child abandonment, possibly even insurance fraud, Daniel explained, his voice crisp and professional as always. How do we prove it? I asked. Let me investigate the insurance claims they filed. Get them talking, record everything. And Helen, don't sign anything they give you. What if they try to take Ethan? He's legally still their son. He's 18 now, Helen. They have no legal authority over him. Besides, abandonment for 15 years significantly weakens any parental claims they might make. After hanging up, I called Ethan. Hey, Mom, what's up? His deep voice still surprised me sometimes. The boy was now a man. Ethan, I need you to come home right after practice. There are people here you should meet. Is everything okay? He asked, concern evident. Just some ghosts from the past. I'll explain everything. You sound upset. Do you need me to come now? No, finish practice, but prepare yourself. It's your parents. Your biological parents. There was a long silence. They're alive? Very much so. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said before hanging up. When Ethan arrived, the confrontation began immediately. Oh my God, look at you! Diane squealed, jumping up. You're so tall! You look just like my father? Ethan interrupted coolly. The father I've never met because he abandoned me with a fake medical diagnosis? Mark stepped forward. Now wait a minute, young man. Young man? Ethan laughed bitterly. You don't get to call me that. You're not my father. Helen is my parent, the only one who stayed. We had our reasons, Diane said defensively. Which were? I prompted. We were young. We made mistakes, Mark offered lamely. Mistakes? I echoed. You called abandoning your supposedly dying child a mistake? You don't understand what we were going through, Diane insisted. We weren't ready. And I was? I fired back. I wasn't the one who had a child. I wasn't prepared to suddenly become a mother to a sick boy. But you did it anyway, Mark said quietly. And from the looks of it, you did a good job. Don't you dare compliment her, Ethan snapped. You don't get to walk in here and play proud papa now. We came back, didn't we? Diane snapped. And we want to make things right, starting with... She pulled out a folder. These property documents. What property? I asked. Your grandfather's lake house, she replied. Half of it should have been mine. We want to sell it and split the proceeds. Now everything made sense. So that's why you're here, I said, staring at the folder Diane had placed on the coffee table. Grandpa's lake house finally became valuable, and now you want your share. It's legally mine, Diane insisted, her perfectly manicured nail tapping the folder. Half of it anyway. Mom, what's she talking about? Ethan asked. his expression darkening. Your mother thinks she's entitled to Grandpa's property, I explained. The property he left specifically to me in his will 15 years ago. After you manipulated him? Diane spat, her composure cracking. You always were his favorite. I didn't manipulate anyone, I replied calmly. He made his decision after you ran off with my husband. You turned him against me. Diane's voice rose. You poisoned him. Is that what you've been telling yourself all these years? I asked. That I'm the villain in this story? Mark cleared his throat. Look, we know this is awkward, but we're family. Families share. Family? Rachel interjected with a laugh. You forfeited that claim when you abandoned your child with a fake medical diagnosis. That's a serious accusation, Mark said, his attorney voice emerging. One I can prove, came Daniel's voice from the doorway. I hadn't heard him arrive. Who are you? Diane demanded. Daniel Lewis, attorney at law, he replied, setting his briefcase on the table. And I have some interesting documents here. You called a lawyer? Mark scoffed. That's a bit dramatic. Says the man who abandoned his son for 15 years and now wants property, Rachel muttered. Daniel opened his briefcase. Helen, as we discussed on the phone, I pulled the insurance claims. There's no record of any heart condition for Ethan, but there is a rather substantial life insurance policy taken out on him 3 weeks before he was left with you. The room fell silent. That's not what it looks like, Diane stammered. It looks like insurance fraud, Daniel continued calmly, and abandonment, and filing false medical reports. You were going to collect on my life insurance? Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. No, Diane exclaimed. We were scared. We made mistakes. So you admit there was no heart condition? I pressed. Diane looked at Mark desperately. We panicked, Mark finally said. We weren't ready for parenthood. So you invented a terminal illness? Rachel asked incredulously. We never said terminal, Mark corrected. Just serious. Serious enough to abandon him, I said. Serious enough to make me think I was caring for a dying child. Did you ever plan to come back for me? Ethan asked, his hands trembling. Was that ever part of the plan? Mark and Diane exchanged glances. That's what I thought, Ethan said, his voice hollow. You were just going to let me think you died trying to save me. We're sorry, Diane cried, reaching for Ethan's hand. We've changed. We want to make amends. Ethan pulled away. Don't touch me. Please, Mark pleaded. We can work this out as a family. You're not my family, Ethan replied coldly. And you're not getting the lake house? You ungrateful little. Diane lunged forward, but Rachel stepped between them. Touch him and I'm calling the police, Rachel warned. You can't keep us from what's ours, Diane snarled, grabbing the folder. Actually, Daniel interjected, I have the paperwork right here showing that the statute of limitations for contesting the will expired years ago. The property is solely Helen's. This isn't over, Mark threatened, his face reddening. We'll take this to court. Please do, Daniel replied, smiling thinly. We'll be sure to bring up the insurance fraud as well. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Daniel asked 3 weeks later as we walked up the courthouse steps. Once we file these charges, there's no going back. I've waited 15 years, I replied firmly. I'm done waiting. They called again this morning, Daniel said. They're getting desperate. Good, I replied. Now they know how it feels. Inside, Rachel and Ethan were already seated. Across the aisle, Diane and Mark huddled with their attorney, shooting nervous glances our way. They offered another settlement this morning, Daniel informed me quietly. Double the previous amount. I don't want their money, I said. I want justice. Mom, Ethan whispered as I sat down. Are you okay? I'm fine, I assured him. How about you? I keep thinking about what might have happened if they'd succeeded, he admitted. If they'd collected that insurance money. But they didn't, Rachel interjected. Because Helen saw through them. Not soon enough, I said. I should have questioned the diagnosis immediately. You trusted your sister, Rachel said. That's not a character flaw. All rise, called the bailiff, and the proceedings began. The proceedings were mercifully brief. The evidence Daniel had gathered was overwhelming. The falsified medical records, the life insurance policy, the abandoned child support payments. The court finds sufficient evidence to proceed with charges of insurance fraud, child abandonment, and attempted property fraud, the judge announced. Bail is set at $50,000 each. Outside, Diane caught up to us in the parking lot. "Helen, please," she begged, her designer outfit looking suddenly shabby in the harsh sunlight. "You can't do this to your own sister." "I'm not doing anything to you," I replied. "You did this to yourself. We made a mistake. Everyone deserves a second chance." "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary," I said. "What you did was calculate and execute a plan to abandon your child and potentially profit from his supposed death." "It wasn't like that," Mark protested. "We never intended—" "Then what was the insurance policy for?" Ethan demanded. "Extra vacation money?" "We were young and stupid," Diane cried. "We've suffered too, you know." "Have you?" I asked. "Because from your social media, it looks like you've been living quite well. European vacations, Caribbean cruises." "We had 15 years of chances," Ethan interjected. "You never took them." "We were scared and stupid," Mark tried. "But we're family." "Family doesn't abandon family," I said quietly. "Family doesn't lie and steal and disappear for 15 years. "What do you want from us?" Diane cried. "Nothing," I answered truthfully. "Not one single thing." Later that evening, as Ethan and I sat on the dock at the lake house, our lake house, he asked the question I'd been dreading. "Do you ever wish things had been different?" he asked, skipping stones across the water. "Different how?" "That they'd been better people, that they'd stayed." I considered this carefully. "No, because then you might not have been my son." "I'm not really your son, though," he said hesitantly. "Ethan James Porter," I said firmly. "Biology doesn't make a mother. 15 years of homework and nightmares and basketball games and broken hearts? That makes a mother." "And a son?" he asked with a half smile. "That too." I nudged his shoulder with mine. "Besides, now we have this place all to ourselves." "You know," Ethan said after a moment, "I used to make up stories about them when I was little." "What kind of stories?" "That they were spies or astronauts. That they died saving people." "I'm sorry they weren't the parents you deserved." "I got the parent I deserved," he said. "She's sitting right here." "What are you going to do with their letters if they write from prison?" Ethan asked. "The same thing I've done with everything else they've sent over the years," I replied, watching the sunset paint the lake gold. "Return to sender?" "Exactly." "You never told me they sent things," Ethan said, surprised. "Cheap gifts, cards with $20 bills. Nothing that made up for what they did," I explained. "Nothing worth keeping." "Like them," Ethan said quietly. "Like them," I agreed. As we walked back to the house, I thought about paths not taken and roads better left untraveled. Sometimes the family you're born with isn't the family you end up with. Sometimes betrayal leads to something stronger than what was broken. Have you ever had to choose between forgiveness and self-respect? Between the family you were given and the family you built? I chose. And I'd choose the same way again.